We have nearly completed our project. We're going to wrap up construction today by hemming and sewing our side seams. We've sewn our neckband and set our sleeve. Now we simply need to finish our garment, and we're going to do that in a slightly different order than you may be familiar with. We are going to hem the sleeve like this, laid flat before the side seams are sewn, as well as the hemline. Before the bodice front and back are sewn together, we will be hemming flat like this. But first, before we hem, we need to make sure that the side seams of our garment, both front and back bodice, are the exact same length. So we're going to test that now. Line up the point at the hem of your sleeve and clip. Follow the side seam to the underarm point and clip there as well. And then continue lining up your front and back bodice all the way down to the hemline, clipping as you go. When you reach the hemline, you can determine whether or not there is a length discrepancy. You can see here that I have about a ½ inch discrepancy in my front and back bodice. I'm going to show you now how I simply trim that off using my cutting mat and my rotary cutter. I simply trim off the slightly longer portion to match with the shorter, and now they are the same length. You can remove the clips on your side seam, and we can move on to hemming our garment. I will be hemming my garment today with a 5/8 inch seam allowance. I begin in the center of the curve, turning it up 5/8 of an inch and placing a clip. I then do the same at 2 midpoints further out from the center. I prefer to work in this way with a curved hem. I find it easier to distribute the ease between the clips and get a nice smooth curve. Work carefully to distribute all of the ease between the clips, smoothing everything out, avoiding any sharp points. Once you have turned up your hemline and you feel satisfied, you can go ahead and press. When working with a blind stitch foot, I like to use a little bit of spray starch to help lend stability to my hemline and give the press a more crisp hold. This is optional, but I do find that it is helpful in holding your hem as you're sewing. We are now going to take the portion that we just turned up and we are going to flip it back. Simply grasp the hem and flip it back beneath the garment, all the way around the hemline, smoothing as you go to ensure that everything stays smooth and that there are no puckers. Once you have your hemline flipped under, you're going to pull the bodice back, revealing about 1/4 of an inch of the free edge of the fabric that will peek out from beneath your curve. I will show you this a little bit more up close. As you can see, I'm simply pulling a small portion of the free edge of the fabric so that it is visible peeking out from beneath the fold along the curve. I often like to place clips temporarily to hold my free edge peeking out in place. I will remove these in just a moment to allow me to press, but it simply helps hold everything in place while I'm working around the curve of the garment. Continue working carefully to position the free edge of the fabric so that it peeks out beneath 1/4 of an inch all the way around, and once you are done, press. Pressing well and often with a blind hem can help ensure professional results. Once you have pressed your garment, add pins or clips all the way around the hemline liberally to hold your hem in place while you sew. I will now take you over to my B64 airlock serger and show you how I use a blind stitch foot to create a blind hem. I will be using the accessory foot here that you can see available from Burnett that is compatible with the B64 airlock. It comes with 6 presser feet, and I will be using the blind stitch foot for my blind hem today. We will begin by going over the settings on your serger that you will need to adjust to accommodate for the blind stitch foot. We will begin by removing the right needle, setting up our overlocker for a 3-thread overlock. You will leave the left needle in place, and the left needle tension I like to reduce to approximately 2 or 3. I will now switch out my standard presser foot for the blind stitch foot found in my accessory pack. Simply remove the standard foot and pop on the new blind stitch foot. Here I'm setting my needle tension between 2 and 3. Both upper and lower loopers will remain at 5. We'll take a look at the differential feed and the stitch length. Stitch length we'll set to 4 and differential feed to 1. The last thing you may need to change is your stitch width. I'll pop open my machine and adjust my stitch width to a 5. And we are now ready to jump in, use our blind stitch foot, and create a blind hem on our knit tee. You can see here on the blind stitch foot that it has a guide that extends off the front of the foot. You will be running this guide along the fold of your hemline, allowing your stitches to simply fall onto the fold. You can see the guide here and the fold of my fabric here. The free edge, the 1/4 inch that extends beyond your fold, will be going underneath the guide, and your stitches will be catching the very edge of the fold. And this is what creates the blind stitch. The stitches are very small. They simply grab the edge of that little fold and are barely visible once you pull the hem open. Serge in this manner, slowly and carefully, along the fold, working to keep the guide right along the fold of your hemline. Once you are done, you open your fold and press well, and you'll see tiny little stitches along a barely imperceptible, flat, stretchy hemline, and you have completed your blind hem.